Elise here at Bowman Library with a whole new teen book spotlight. So for this week, we are taking a look at some of the titles that have been nominated for the 2021-2022 Virginia Reader's Choice High School Teen Nominees. So here's the deal. Every year there are 10 books that are nominated for this award, but you get to be the one who chooses the winner, because here's how it works. You read as many of the 10 books as you can, and then you come to the library and you vote for which one was your favorite, joining hundreds and thousands of others from across the state. And then the one with the most votes is the winner. So we have 6 of the 10 nominees here today. Some of them are some of my recent favorites from the past year, so I will try not to be biased, but there are some really awesome choices. So let's get started. Our first one is The Downstairs Girl. So Chinese American Jo is living in Atlanta in 1890, and she's living a double life. During the day, she has a real job. She starts as a milliner, or a person who makes hats, but she gets fired from that because of her heritage. And then she becomes a lady's maid, but in the evenings, she is the secret author of one of the hottest advice columns in the city, and she's known as Miss Sweetie, and she gets published in the newspapers on a weekly basis. So it's a column that Jo shares many opinions, many of which are considered to be controversial and ahead of their time and pretty outspoken. And if she is ever found out, if her identity is ever learned, she would be severely punished. There is so much in this book. There's history, mystery, there's a slap you in your face twist that you probably won't see coming. I know I didn't see it coming. There's horse racing, there's sports, there's figuring out who you are. I loved this book, highly recommended. I don't want to tell you too much because it could ruin it. I don't want to ruin it for you. But if you love historical fiction, this is a must read. This is The Downstairs Girl. Frankly in Love. So this is one of mine from the past year. So Frank Lee is a senior in high school, and he has the pressure of being a senior in high school, along with the pressure that comes from his Korean family. He is first generation Korean Americans. His parents immigrated from South Korea. He was born here, so they have super high expectations for him. One of which is Frank is expected to date a nice Korean girl. But the girl of his dreams is not Korean. In fact, she's white, which leads to this harebrained scheme that is thought up between him and one of his Korean friends that they are going to secretly date, he and this Korean girl. And everyone's going to think that they're together. But reality is they're not going to be, because he's gonna go date his girlfriend and she has a boyfriend who is black, which is even more controversial in their community. So things start off really well, but like everything else, not everything is gonna go to plan, and Frank starts to realize that life can get complicated and unexpected. This book will make you laugh, cry, hurt, you will feel the awkwardness in some of the moments, and you will realize that sometimes what you think you need and what you want is not what is actually what you need. I recommend this book to pretty much everyone, but if you love realistic fiction, this is awesome. This is Frankly in Love. With the Fire on High. So, high school senior Amani loves to cook, she loves to bake, she works part-time, and she is a single mother living with her abuela in Philadelphia. She has a 3-year-old daughter that she is doing everything she can to take care of. So, at school, Amani joins a culinary class that has the possibility of a trip to Spain. And when she starts to figure out how she's going to juggle being an individual, a student, a mother, a best friend, a girlfriend, she has to then figure out things that, that a regular high school senior doesn't have to, on top of like childcare, custody issues, making ends meet. But Amani decides that she needs to be true to herself, and she needs to do whatever she can to give her future a possibility for both her and her daughter. This is filled with food, cooking, baking. It's a gritty, realistic novel that will have you a ride along with Amani that you will not want to stop. You will want to know what happens to her. This is With the Fire on High. Darius the Great is not okay. So Darius Kellner is a Persian American who is clinically depressed, bullied, and overweight, gay, and a sophomore in high school. His family travels to Iran, a place he knows nothing about, and he's afraid about going because he doesn't know if he's going to fit in there. The reason why they're going is to see his grandfather, who he's never really met either, but his grandfather is dying. Once he's there, though, everyone welcomes him with open arms, and he soon becomes friends with a boy next door named Sohrab. Through his time there in Iraq, he starts to connect with the people, the places, and the culture. He even starts to be called by his Persian name of Dariush. While the story doesn't sugarcoat problems, it stays mostly on the positive side. It's an amazing story about finding yourself. There's true friendship in there, connecting with family and others. There is a sequel that you will want to read. It's out. You will want to read it as soon as you are done with this one. This is Darius the Great is Not Okay. The Rise and Fall of Charles Lindbergh. So, you know I love nonfiction. If you've watched a bunch of these, you know I love nonfiction. This is probably one of the best nonfiction I have read over the past year. It's by Candace Fleming. Anything by Candace Fleming, you know, is going to be amazing. So this, yeah. The only thing I really knew about Charles Lindbergh before I read this book was, you know, he was alive like almost 100 years ago. He became really famous. He became this like American hero because he was the first person to fly across the Atlantic Ocean nonstop by himself. And there was also, you know, the great mystery that he had a baby that was kidnapped one night, and it led to this massive manhunt, and it was all in the papers and people couldn't get enough of it. But there is so much more to him and his life than I ever could have thought of. And it will leave you in a conundrum like it probably left me in, because this man was considered to be one of the greatest American heroes in modern history. But there are some things that you will learn about him that if it wasn't researched and had facts to back up, I don't know if you would believe it. Like, for example, he met with Hitler and basically considered himself to be a Nazi while speaking at white supremacist rallies. And he even had multiple families around the world. But here is this man, like, how do you justify him being called an American hero when we find out all this other stuff about him? This biography is eye-opening. It's crazy to think that some of the problems that were going on at this time we're still talking about, you know, in society, and it will have you questioning not only Charles Lindbergh, but what defines a person in who we define as a hero. This is the rise and fall of Charles Lindbergh. And our last one for this week is Children of Blood and Bone. So when Zelia was 6, her village was raided, her mother was killed, and she was left alone because King Sauron dislikes magic and considers it the source of everything evil. Naturally, her mother was able to perform magic. So 11 years later, Zelia remembers a time when there was magic, and she wants to do everything she can to bring it back to her land. When she finds out information that can lead her to that goal being achieved, Zelia becomes the #1 target of King Sauron, and she, some family members, and some friends they soon find themselves picking up along the way, they start fleeing across the country, trying to restore magic, trying to fulfill, you know, this quest, all while trying to avoid being caught and killed by Prince Anon, who is determined to set out to complete what his father started. This fantasy is filled with twists and turns, magic, action, adventure. You won't be able to put it down. Book 2 is already out. Book 3 is supposed to be coming out hopefully sometime here in the near future. This is Children of Blood and Bone. So these are just 6 of the books that we have here at the library that are out of the 10 that are the VRC nominees for our high school and teen books. So I encourage you to come out, read as many of the 10 as you can, and then you get to vote for your favorite, and then you will find out in April which one wins. So you've been challenged, you've been encouraged. These are awesome books. It's on you now, okay? I hope you have a great week, and I hope you tune back next week when we have a whole new teen book spotlight.